Hey, this is Mike, and I'm here with Anthony Harris. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. How's it going, man?
That's great. Good.
It's an honor to be here, dude.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm so happy. This is really one of the budding up and coming superstars of the internet marketing world. Anthony actually has an extraordinary story. He got started all the way back in the day with real estate. Now he's switched over to the internet marketing marketplace, and we've been hanging out for the last several days. And so I'm really glad to be sharing this with you. Now, Anthony, take us all the way back. Your start in internet marketing actually comes before you entered the internet marketing niche itself. You actually got started in the real estate niche. Where were you at before you started making money online?
I was goofing off, man, having a good time. Moved to Florida in 1996.
Your folks opened a Dunkin' Donuts out here.
Yep, my parents moved from Massachusetts down to Florida, DeLand, Florida, small little town. Nickname is Deadland because it's so boring. There's nothing to do there. It's in between.
Big donuts.
Yeah, it's make donuts. It's in between Daytona Beach and Orlando. And
how long ago was this? About like.
This is 1996, so it's
good.
a while ago.
Yeah.
And I was still in college. I was in my last year of school, last semester, and got into a fight with a girl that I was dating at the time. She was Argentinian and Italian, and she was very heated, and got into a big brawl on Newberry Street, and she like abandoned me, left me there, and I had no way of getting home because I forgot my wallet at home. It was a crazy night.
Wow.
And I persuaded a cab driver to give me a ride home, which was about 20 minutes south of Boston with no money.
Yeah.
At like 3 in the morning, the guy's like, this guy's going to stiff me.
Yeah.
But I promised him, I said, listen, man, get me home and I'll pay you. I actually gave him double the money to get me home.
Yeah.
I was so pissed off, so angry at her that I said, screw this. I had a little MR2, which is like a little two-seater
I remember the
car.
MR2. That's a little, yeah.
I packed the thing up and I headed down to Florida to be with my dad because he was already down here getting the business set up, and my mom was trying to pack up the house and sell it, and she didn't like the girl at all, so she was happy. She's like, go be with your dad. It'll be good for you to get away.
And so did you actually participate in, like when you buy a franchise, like obviously they give you a game plan for putting together, and this supposedly, I guess, was their retirement. Was this the first business that they started?
He was in a Dunkin' Donuts franchise in the Northeast in Massachusetts.
Was it someone else's? Or
yeah, it was someone else's, and he worked his way up through it.
So he wanted to now go out on his own?
On his own and do his own. But prior to that, he worked for Hewlett-Packard. He was an engineer for 15 years.
Okay.
And he started an office supply store, and it went belly up in the late 80s. There was a recession.
So you'd seen physical locations go belly up.
Yeah, I lived through my dad losing his business. We were like 2 weeks away from losing our home, and it was like incredible. Like he was able to just keep it all together, like mentally. Like he didn't, like the family knew, we all knew what was going on, and we all helped and we all pitched in, but he kept composure. Like he didn't give up. He said, all right. He couldn't go back into the tech field because he'd been gone for so long.
Right, he didn't have the updated skills.
Yeah, and nobody would take him back, and even though he was in management, it was just like, it was crazy. Like, it was the late 80s, it was 87, 88, there was a major recession going on, there was a lot of tough stuff going on.
Sure.
And it was hard for him to get in anywhere, so he said, I want to own a Dunkin' Donuts, I want to be my own boss, I want to be in a cash business, because he had an office supply store, and the reason it went belly up was because of his accounts receivables. People owed him a bunch of money, and he couldn't pay his bills. So he said, I want to be in an all-cash business. I want to own a
I think this is interesting because I got my start by opening a physical store myself. I opened a game store. And, as that first step, it seems so real and it makes so much sense by way of comparison to going online. But then one of the things to be really aware of, because like as you're helping your dad put together this Dunkin' Donuts store, I mean, looking back, you've got to be really seriously aware of all those fixed costs. As it time to make the donuts, right? I mean, that's the whole, that was the whole big advertising campaign with Dunkin' Donuts, is that the franchise owner wakes up, it's 3 in the morning, time to make the donuts,
and that's what
get up and go off to work and start slogging through it. Yeah. So what was like? What were some of the elements of putting that shop together?
So after, like he said, I want to do this, he got in his mind that's what he was going to do. So the guy across the street, our neighbor, he owned like 9 of them, and he went to go to work for him. Started at the bottom, turned one of the guy's stores around completely. The store wasn't doing that great. My dad, he was in management at Hewlett-Packard, so he knew how to make things efficient.
Yeah.
And he was in the medical manufacturing division. Hewlett Packard has a big medical division, and so he would in turn the store around, made it profitable, loved it. It was like he was like back in business. Like he loved that.
Well, and one of the major things about seeing success with a physical store, and I had up and down success, but I did have success with my physical store, is yeah, it's a brick and mortar, and it's not nearly as good as internet marketing, but one of the good news things about that is that if you can have a good time running an offline business, running a physical brick and mortar business, then holy cow, is internet marketing
awesome.
Like a miracle.
Awesome.
When we were in the car driving around, we were talking about what it was like when we were 15 years old, and I was saying, you know, when I was 15 years old, I really thought, man, if I could make, nowadays, you know, I make so much money that I make more money in a month now than I thought was ever really possible for me to make an entire year.
Yep.
And that was like my dream number. I was thinking, man, maybe when I'm 40, 50,
yep.
60 years old, maybe I'll be making that kind of money. Maybe I'll be making $50,000 a year.
Right.
Wow. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not mocking anybody when I say that. Like I was like,
yeah, that was my dream too. 50 grand a year, I'll be all set, everything will be fine.
Yeah, and nowadays, like, you know, you have a good month. I mean, you know, for me that might be 15 days, it might be 10 days. I mean, you know, like it can be crazy. And you know, I know your numbers are really good too, that they're really healthy. So my point is, if you can have a great time in an offline business, if you ever think to yourself, man, it would really be cool to open a brick and mortar store, because on the flip side of things, one of the big mistakes that I see people making when they start having success online is they start opening up offices, and they start hiring a bunch of employees. And
they don't keep it tight.
Yeah, it can really bring them down. Okay, so time to make the donuts. So what are some of the elements? Like you have a physical location.
Yeah, I mean, you have to come up with some serious cash. Like he had to line up an investor. He was going to do it with the guy that he had worked for. The guy was very interested in coming to Florida, but then he changed his mind, and my dad lined up another investor, and he put up a portion of his money too. And
how much money went into opening it?
It was like $500,000, and then you had to have
$500 million in cash.
Yeah, in cash. You know, it was a lot of money, and you don't even know if it's gonna make any money, which is crazy. Like you're putting that money up, and you do all these demographic studies on where your store is, and you know how much you do traffic counts,
zoning and stuff like that.
Yeah, you do traffic counts and all this crazy stuff, and you know, you hope it's gonna do well.
So like that's like the traffic counts. That's when you hire somebody to sit there and click when people drive by. Yeah. So compare that to the Google keyword tool.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I thought. Back in the day, it was the Overture keyword tool before the Google keyword tool existed.
Yeah,
and I started messing around with SEO. And in 03 and 02, it was the Overture keyword tool, and I was like, oh my god, this is like the traffic thing that the guys at Dunkin' Donuts do.
That's so funny. Okay, so you line up an investor, your dad puts in his life savings, the investor puts up some money.
And pray as well.
Okay, great. So you open up the location, you buy the physical stuff, the workers come in, they work on stuff, you know, spec the place out.
All kinds of stuff comes out, all kinds of fires to put out.
Right, because it's not like everything just comes together seamlessly. Because people talk about tech problems online, but offline, those same problems are there.
Yeah.
The point of sale system isn't integrating correctly, like all this kind of stuff. Okay, so ultimately, but the store got up and running. How long did it take it to go from $500,000 is invested to we're opening our doors?
It didn't take long because it was a Mr. Donut before, and what had happened was Dunkin' had bought all of Mr. Donuts, and the people that didn't want to convert had to sell. Oh, and so the guy that had it sold it, so they just kind of went in and revamped the whole thing. So it was a donut shop before, but the thing was, it wasn't profitable right away. We were running in the red for a while, and
How long?
It was almost a year.
Wow.
And my dad was like, we were really worried. We were like, man, I don't know because you know the northeast market for Dunkin' Donuts is very different than the southeast market, and we came down here thinking that the product mix would be the same, meaning that in the Northeast you sell like 70–80% of your business. Now it's even more. It's like 90% of your business is coffee. It's, you know, the nickname is Black Gold. You know, like you would buy a case of coffee for like $70, but it would end up retailing for like $1,000, you know, per cup.
Yeah.
You know, is what it would come out to.
Sure.
So, you know, you would make so much money on the coffee, and then we moved to Florida, and the mix was totally different. It was like, you know, 40% coffee, 60% donuts. and donuts are labor intensive.
And that was like, and when you say that, really what that means is people are just buying less coffee.
Yeah.
And the coffee's so profitable.
Yeah, so like
wow.
let's say your weekly sales
what
are 10,000.
What a shock though. Like I kind of want to point this out because it may seem kind of weird that we're in this internet marketing video talking like, and I'm so intense on talking about donuts, but I got to tell you, like, this is for real. Like really having a serious one-to-one comparison between having, say, something like a Dunkin' Donuts or like a game store like I had and starting a website. Because if you start a website and it doesn't go the way you thought, you're not $500,000 into it. You're not like, you might be like $50 into it, or you might be like a couple $100s, or maybe $1,000.
And I get really angry at the scarcity mindset in the community. What people, everything is, has to be free. Like, if it's not free, they're not gonna, make it work in their business. I get really angry. There's a scarcity mindset, like the hosting, and all this stuff. It's like, invest in your business. Like, you're not spending $500,000 to open a store, right? I don't know if you come across that, where the mindset is it has to be free, or I'm not going to get it,
Well, and the thing is, again, it's like you're saying, it's like a comparative. Like, if you're spending $70 on a case of coffee and turning around and making $1,000, then you'll just do that all day.
Right.
Well, at the same time, I mean, if you do hosting, and I don't know how many hundreds of dollars I pay for hosting, but whatever it is, it's worth it.
Totally.
Like, I pay, I don't know what it is, $100 a month for autoresponder service with AWeber, and I would never, I mean, I would rather have I literally rather have the electricity off in my house in the dead of winter, or in the hot of summer, than lose my ability to email my list. By far. Like, I mean, just so you know, that's not even the slightest exaggeration. It wouldn't even be a toss-up.
No, totally.
And that kind of gives you an example. But like with a physical location, you're talking about, you've got your rent, you've got your electricity, you've got, I mean, employees.
My mom's electrical bill in one of the stores is $3,200 a month. It was before she sold it.
Wow, $3,200 a month. Because of all the machinery that you're running in the back to create donuts and stuff. Okay, because this is something interesting, because like you'll do stuff like this, like
hosting $3,200 a month.
Yeah,
that'd be crazy, dude.
Yeah, it would never happen. I mean, well, and by the way, at the point when you're spending $3,200 a month on hosting, you have so many visitors.
Yes, of course.
Where you're just like, whee!
Of course, it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a bad thing.
So well, that's pretty fascinating. So
that happened. We moved down. The product mix was different, meaning like if we did 10,000 a week in sales,
and let me just say one more thing about this. Like, having that product mix, that's fascinating, because like I know I've started things where I thought, well, we're going to make such and such on hosting, right? And then people just don't want the hosting, and I'm like, all right, I'll just sell something else.
Right.
You just find something else to sell that they do need.
Exactly.
That is helpful. Well, what other problems are you having in your business? Oh, you're having a problem with somebody to put together your website for you. You need done for you links for your website. Oh, okay. You need consulting, or okay, you want coaching. Fine, right? Or okay,
find out what they want and give it to them.
Yeah, you want more about paid traffic. Fine, right? And now, by the way, that's very different than surveying. Just so you know, I don't survey. I just try things until they work. So I do read my emails. I'm very curious what my customers say to me, but I don't like asking them, and that's just like a little bit of a side thing, because I think that the interesting thing is you did do demographic checks for your Dunkin' Donuts, and nobody said, oh, we like coffee 40% less.
Right. Yeah.
Because people don't know.
Yeah, we wouldn't have done that. We didn't think it was going to be that dramatic. Like,
so how did you deal with that? Like, so you find out, you're like sitting here, and he's like, you know what?
Oh my God, the story.
Like, we're missing so much money in coffee here. How did you guys make it?
I remember working the drive-thru for the first time, and people are rolling up from the South, and I live in the South now. So I've been in the South since '96, so I consider myself a Southerner now. But people would roll up on the drive-thru, and they'd be like, I want 2 glazed donuts and a large Mountain Dew. This is at 6 a.m. in the morning. I would be like, a Mountain Dew? And it was like that over and over again and again. Like, it blew my mind. Like, nobody's getting coffee? What's going on?
Yeah.
So I went on this coffee crusade, is what I called it. And I would basically just give coffee away. I wanted people on the crack. Yeah. And I did. I just gave away iced coffees, and I would make coffees. If you bought a box of donuts, I'd give you a bag of ground coffee to bring home. And people would turn it away. They wouldn't want to even try it. Like, they'd be like, iced coffee, ew. It was weird. You would think iced coffee would do well down here, you know? And it was just crazy. It just boggled my mind.
But eventually you started converting.
Oh, I penetrated
Well,
the market.
and this is fascinating because this is something that Anthony's done again and again. Like oftentimes the things that we do offline carry over to online. Like when you've done the free, you know, we'll get into more about the free in a second. But like this model with internet marketing, I love to do this with SEO. I love to do this with lots of stuff. Get people addicted. You know, there's a reason that drug dealers give away drugs. It's because
I penetrated the market. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. If there was a taste of DeLand, a taste of Daytona, I was there with my coffee. I even got a coffee jetpack, and I would go through downtown Atlanta giving away people free coffee. I'm not kidding you.
Holy shit!
Yeah, man, I was on a coffee crusade.
That's great.
And we turned the business completely around within a year.
Coffee.
Yeah, it took about a year to do it, but we turned the business around, and we became, like, in Central Florida, one of the leading stores that sold the most coffee.
And there's something more to this, because it's not just the coffee. Obviously, I'm sure you picked it up. It's the energy. You know, Anthony brings a lot of great energy to the game. And I'm not saying that you necessarily do. Some people watching right now are like, yeah, I've got that kind of energy. Good. And you can feel great about that. For Anthony, a lot of the things that he'll do, and we'll get into this in a few moments, we'll boil down to like really come across great with video, or really dealing well with one-on-one people. You know, when it comes to JV deals and stuff like that, which is a real strength of yours. Now, Anthony also has a partner that, you know, frequent partner in crime, Derek Pearson. Derek is like a total tech monkey. I mean, this guy, totally fearless when it comes to tech stuff, just like you are totally fearless when it comes to video tech stuff, and when it comes to going to JV events and talking to potential partners. There's probably a certain kind of fearlessness in each of us when it comes to the moves that we make when it comes to business, especially with online marketing. And it's good to notice the things that you like to do and the things that you don't like to do, because you know, obviously, you know, with Heather, you know, who you also work with, you know, there's certain things that she has a bit more of a fearlessness for doing as well.
Yes,
and
she's a taskmaster. I'm not a taskmaster.
Right, more detail oriented, more focus oriented, and so it really winds up being a bit of a three-person gang.
Yes. Which
oftentimes, by the way, three oftentimes is a very magical number with business, especially if you keep like politics and drama to a very, very bare minimum.
Yeah.
Then oftentimes between three people, and these are just little tips, but this is the way it often works in my business with David Mills. We usually work with one other person on a given project, and usually that's kind of the magic number for us, where things are very stable and very, very solid. Certainly, you know, a terrific example of that is with OMG and with Greg Morrison, is, you know, like Superman. When it comes to like tech stuff, SEO, and he does great with that.
I'm so grateful to be working with you and Greg, man. I mean, some of the stuff you guys are doing is
I totally appreciate that. No, we love working with you as well.
Girls.
I appreciate that. So okay, so one of the things you do is you pour energy into this shop. You get it turned on coffee-wise.
Yes, I was really focused on it. You know, like I moved down here. My dad was focused on it. I had the blinders on. I was going to do it, and I did it for a little while, and I got really frustrated. Like I wanted to try different things, and like we were supposed to open.
You wanted it to be your own shop. At some point, you wanted to be entrepreneurial yourself.
Yeah, and we were supposed to open more locations, and I found all these amazing locations, and they turned them all down.
Yeah.
And it was like having a boss, and like you couldn't do.
And that's one of the great things again about internet marketing is like if you want to strike out on a new venture, it's like I mean, unless you just basically like berate yourself in your head for like not having things be as amazing as you thought they were going to be. Like almost everything is a success, and that's something else that's worth. So how did you transition? Is the next place you went into the real estate market?
No. So I went to. So I didn't finish school, right? So I transferred my credits from up there to down here, and I lost. You know, like when you transfer, you lose credit.
Yeah, some things don't.
It ended up, you know, that I had to go back to school for longer. So I kind of started to go back to school a little bit, and I always wanted to be a stockbroker. I grew up watching the movie Wall Street. You
thought that was cool.
Yeah, dude, Gordon Gekko,
and
Bud Fox, they were like my financial heroes.
Sure.
And, you know, I remember reading my first Donald Trump book, and I
love Art of the Deal.
It's kind of, Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal blew me away. It really changed my life. I think Art of the Deal, for me personally,
just got excited about like money making, money getting. You know, I was like, I knew I wanted to make money, and I wanted to stake my claim in the world, and I didn't want to like work for somebody to do it. I wanted to do it on my own, because I saw my dad. You know, he worked for Hewlett Packard for 15 years, and he built a nice life for us, but like he still wanted to go out on his own, you know.
Yeah, you really wanted to be entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And really quickly, Heather, could you just make sure that we're still rolling, just in case? I always like to chuck that pattern.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't see it in the
We
light.
got a little red light. I think we're good.
Oh, can you see it? That's great.
Yeah.
I can't always see it.
No, that's cool. And
so where did you go? All right, so you start studying some of this stuff.
So I decided I want to be a stockbroker. So I went studied and I got my Series 7 and my Series 63. Wow. And
so did you start actually working on?
Yeah, I went to work for Edward Jones, and Edward Jones is like from Wall Street to Main Street. So yeah, they penetrate local Main Street neighborhoods, and they teach you how to knock, sell some stock. Where you actually go into neighborhoods. So you're
basically going door to door now.
Yeah, introducing myself as the local investment representative.
So let's model this. Like, so you knock on my door. Like, literally, you're going door to door. Yes. You knock on my door. I'm like, hello.
Okay, so I would step away from the door so people wouldn't think I was coming in on them, and we would have like a monthly prospectus. And so I would introduce myself. I'd say, hey there, my name is Anthony. I work with Edward Jones Investments.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going, Mike? And just wanted to let you know we've opened an office here locally, and we're the local investment rep. I'm the local investment rep with Edward Jones Investment, and I brought you a monthly prospectus of what's going on in the stock market. And there's some really interesting things going on over here with Oracle and Microsoft, and I think you should take a look at it if you're interested in investing, or maybe interested in setting up a 401k, or if you have any children and you'd like to get something going for them, please give me a call. Very soft pitch. And
so at that point, you're trying to like lead generate. You're trying to see who's interested. And not so much trying to make the sale at the door. You're trying to get them to come back to the office with you. So you're lead generating.
Pretty much. Yeah, give them a card, give them some sort of money.
I always like to get down and dirty with this kind of stuff, because once again, we can just compare. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but yes, I do. Because the difference in lead generation between what you have to do to lead generate in the real world and online marketing world is just a shock.
It's different, man.
Because, for example, the same thing that you might do at an affiliate event, and you're really great with affiliates, we can say have a lot of confidence in you, have high quality stuff, you know your stuff, you work with great partners and on great projects. So it's almost like the same amount of work that it would take you to knock on a door, to talk to someone who might be very skeptical. You might be talking to an affiliate who's actually very receptive, and reach 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 prospects that way.
Yes. Yeah, it's leverage.
Yeah,
it's leverage. You have leverage with what we do online. Like, I mean, the reach is so far greater without the effort that I would have to put out. And I got escorted out of communities by the police.
Oh my
because
God.
Like our community here is a no solicitation community where we live here, and if you are soliciting, you can get escorted out of here by the police.
And by escorted out, he means kicked out.
Yeah. So. But I had to do it. Like, it was like we would have to check in, and they wanted to know how many people we had talked to.
So how long did you do that?
I did that for a while. I did that for a while, and I was doing really good. And then I had a motorcycle accident.
Wow.
And I was young at the time, maybe like 24, 23. And it was really dumb. I didn't have insurance. What's that kind of insurance that you get hurt? I should have had it. I was selling it.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I didn't have it. And as a stockbroker, you're an independent contractor.
Right.
And so they were not going to like help me out in any way. It was my own issue.
Sure.
So someone took over my book of business, and it kind of sucked.
Were you like in the hospital for a while or something?
Yeah, I was pretty messed up for a while. I'd broken my wrist, and my tailbone was pretty jacked up, and I was pretty messed up.
So you essentially lost your job?
Pretty much, yeah. I lost my job. I had to declare bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, it was a devastating month because I was doing really well.
But again, it also goes to show, like, weirdly enough, I hate to point this out to you, but like, if you'd been in the hospital, you could have had a laptop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's weird, right? Like, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily be able to record videos or something like that, but certainly check emails and send out broadcasts.
This is like 1998, so yeah. I mean, they had laptops back then, but not like they do now. And a laptop was very expensive back then.
Yeah, they really were.
But yeah, like if that happened today, I mean, yeah, you could be in the hospital with a laptop. And
I know it's weird to point these things out, but it's just kind of like, there it is.
Yeah.
We were just at Starbucks before this, and you could be working from Starbucks. Okay, so where did you move on after that? Like, you had the injury. What was your next move?
So I kind of went into this like crawl into my cave and lick my wounds thing, where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go back to school right now. I'm young. I was like really serious growing up. I went to Catholic schools my whole life, like all the way through high school, and I went to college. And you know, my parents were very strict. They were immigrants from Portugal, so they like were old school. You know, we weren't allowed to be out all night gallivanting or anything like that.
No gallivanting.
And no gallivanting. So I didn't really have like a party lifestyle, and so I said, you know, I've been so serious about life and money getting, I think I'm just going to go back to school and really try to finish this up and just kind of have a good time, because Florida's a great place to have a good time. And I said, I'm just going to have a good time. So I just started having a good time, took a break from life. After I started getting into trading stocks big time and flipping cars to make money to get by. I have a massive passion for cars, so I would like find these cars, like really, like people were selling these cars, and I would go around and offer them half of what they were paying, and I would flash the cash, and if they took it, I would get a great deal, and I would turn around and sell the car and make some money, and that's kind of how I got by. And then I would trade stocks. I got heavy into trading stocks and options, and that was another reason why I didn't do good with the Edward Jones culture, because they didn't promote stock trading and option trading, and it was something that I was kind of good at. And I wasn't kind of good. I was.
So you're kind of passionate about something.
Yeah, I was really good at it, and I took $1,800 once and turned it into $63,000 in a couple trades. So it was,
that's so cool.
It was like awesome, you know. Like I was like hooked on it. I loved it. And I did that for a while. Lost my ass in the market when the volatility dried up after the NASDAQ crashed. And
so that was around 2000. Then.
Yeah, it was around 2000. And then I met my ex-wife. And you know, she was from Boston, and you know, being in Florida, I wasn't really meeting the kind of women I wanted to meet down here. Nothing against Florida women. It's just, you know, I was kind of, you know, in Boston you have like 60 universities all around in the city, and you just have like these like super intelligent women, and I kind of missed like being around like these.
At least they seemed like it at the time.
Yeah, it seemed like it at the time, and I was up there visiting. I hadn't been up in 4 years, and I met her up there, and just, you know, the sparks just hit, and I said, you know what? I've been having way too much fun down here in Florida. I need to just take
a break. Have less fun.
Yeah, I need to take a break and get serious about life, because all my friends were doing really well, and all my friends from Boston were doing really, really well. And I said, you know what, I'm going to move to Boston.
And by the way, out of curiosity, what did really, really well mean? Like $50,000 a year?
No, they were all in the tech. So back then, right, remember like the Microsoft system certifications and the Cisco CCNIEs, and they all were like doing really big tech stuff. So they're all making over 6 figures.
Okay, cool.
You know, in the 150 range, and one of them owns an insurance subrogation company. He does really well. Like,
still, man,
probably over.
Still sounds bad to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Nowadays,
I mean, they don't have the laptop lifestyle like we do, and you know, they're always worried about the consolidation that's happening in their companies.
Yeah, because things happen, and like
one of them
whenever we say 6 figures per year, like it's not really per year. It's like what you make right now is what you make.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like you talk about like Cisco certifications, like try to make money with Cisco certifications right now.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a trend that went away. And I jumped on that. I jumped on that trend, and I got a gig when I moved back to Boston, I got a gig at Staples, working in their network administration department, helping set up the NOCs in the stores, and, you know, communicate with the NOC, the Network Operations Center back at the main headquarters. So I did that, and there were people at it that were way smarter than me. And I was like, this isn't really for me, and this isn't a money-getting thing, but I was just doing it, you know, because
kind of pay the bills.
I needed to pay the bills. I just moved up there, you know, and I wanted to impress her parents, and they looked at me as kind of like this beach bum, which I had been a beach bum for a while. So
it sounds like a really good life.
It wasn't. I was having a great time, and I wanted to be serious. So you know, I got this job, and it was like a $50,000 a year job, and I thought I was doing great, but I was miserable. I hated it. I would like find ways to sneak out of there like right at 5 o'clock. Like I would like have all these different routes to make sure that I ducked out at 5 o'clock. I would watch that clock. I would take
like Office Space.
It was just like Office Space. It was like cubicle fields everywhere, and it would be like between getting there and lunch, you have one break, so I would take that break. I would be like counting down the time.
You know, it's funny because it's so popular to have these shows like CSI, where there's like this office culture where everyone's having so much fun working together, and they're just working on this project, and really it's just like it's almost like office porn.
Yeah.
Because it's like these people who like go to work and yet they're having fun. Like that's what like the whole idea behind porn is. You have like this kind of fantasized version of what like people's sexual life, normal ordinary people's sexual life is like, where it's like, the guy just looks at the girl, rips her clothes off and dives on top of him, and next thing you know, like it's like, oh my god, in the same way, like these people just have this hyper fictionalized office environment where everyone's having so much fun, they love their work and blah blah blah. But if you really look at it, like I said, it's like office porn. Like you're not really having that much fun in these work cultures. I mean, I remember being around work cultures and just being like,
and nothing against Staples. I mean, I appreciate that they extended me an opportunity to work for them. It just wasn't for me,
Well, this is about internet marketing anyway. So let's be realistic.
It wasn't for me, and I didn't. I was like, there's no way I can do this for the rest of my life.
Right. So it's driving you nuts.
Driving me nuts.
So you go back in the entrepreneurial world?
Well, so what happened was, I had read The Art of the Deal, and I picked it up and started reading it again, and
I really recommend it. It's so good.
I've done my research on who are the richest people in the world. The people that own the most real estate are the richest people in the world. And the stock thing
before online real estate really existed.
Yeah, and the stock thing had been good to me, but it had also been bad to me, and it wasn't like a consistent thing. You couldn't, like in real estate, you can out of thin air put a deal together and make a crap load of money, and you can't do that with stocks. You have to risk capital to make capital, and if sometimes you get a little greedy and you get a little emotional and you risk all your capital and you lose it all. And I'm kind of the guy that I'm that kind of person that dives into the pool without knowing how deep it is. So I'm a big risk taker, and but that's just how I am. You may not be that way.
Well, and by the way, this kind of mentality, once again, it really suits itself to online marketing. Like if you really want to take risks, online marketing is a great place to be because the risk to reward is so out of proportion to where it is everywhere else in the world.
It's crazy. When
you don't have to you don't have to give up. I mean, think about being a doctor. You give up basically 30 years of your life, right? Starting from when you're 10 until you're 40. That time is all gone.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then you can finally be a doctor, and then you can start making $300,000
a year.
Pretty
much, yeah, for sure.
Same way. If you go to real estate, that's risk, reward, stock market, same kind of thing. But on online marketing, you can create a new venture. It can take a few weeks, and it can be up and running, and that's just reality.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you'll see how that happened to me. That what Mike is saying is exactly what happened to me. So long story short, I get into the real estate racket. In Boston, it's very lucrative, especially in downtown Boston, because it's a big rental community. It's very expensive. Like a nice one bed is like $1,800 to $2,500 a month. A two-bed is anywhere from $2,500 to, it could be $6,000, $7,000,
and what is it traditionally? If you rent it out for a year, then you get 1 month's rent.
Yeah, so your fee is 1 month's rent. So if you rent a one bed,
it's so funny. Every time he's like, it's so lucrative, I'm like, that's like an email blast.
I know, right?
Or less.
But keep in mind, this is like
no, but I appreciate it. And that's what I'm doing is I'm both appreciating for what it is, and then I keep comparing it back to internet marketing, and I'm like.
Yeah, no,
which is part of what this series is about.
I had to hustle for that $1,800 every one bed I rented. I had to run around town.
Because probably when you're thinking that it was great, you're thinking about the time when the deal finally got done and finally got signed. You're totally deleting all the times when it was a complete waste of your time, when you ran around in circles.
Yes.
And as I say this, now I'm kind of getting him depressed. He's like,
no. I'd never been exposed to money getting like that. It was pretty wild because, you'd rent 3 apartments and you'd make $6,000 in a week easily, and you got to keep half. The other half would go to the broker. But $1,500, not bad. I didn't make that at Staples. At Staples it was the same paycheck, all the time. There was no possibility of making more. So when you get into real estate, you have to work for a broker. So I did that. I worked for a broker for a year. And
now, how did you wind up back in Florida?
it's pretty crazy because I went to Florida. So I went back to Boston, right? And then so 9/11 happens in 2001. City gets devastated because we're so close to New York. Everybody freaks out and like they almost like evacuate the city. Big biotech companies, everything. It was crazy. Like the market was really hot, and then poof, it just kind of like stopped. It was really wild.
Wow.
And but my ex-wife was a flight attendant at the time, so they basically furloughed all of the flight attendants for Delta, which is like they don't fire you, but they don't give you work. And they say that when we get busy again, you'll start right back up where you were with the seniority that you have. Having seniority in the airlines is very important. Okay. And it's based on your benefits and all this stuff. And we'll put you right back where you were if things get busy again. And when I had been working at the brokerage in Boston, we used to get all these real estate magazines, the DuPont Registry, and all these magnificent homes, you know, luxury homes. And I'd be flipping through when it was dead, and I'd be flipping through the magazine, and I would notice that like over half of the magazine, all the beautiful homes were in Florida. And I'm like, man, I really want to go back to Florida. I started fantasizing about the weather.
You got the
winter was starting to come in, and so
you got in the MR2 again.
Yeah. So I talked her into doing it. She didn't want to do it, but I talked her into going down. I got my license down here. Went to work at Caldwell Banker over on Stanley, which I don't know if you're familiar with, over in Restaurant Row.
Yeah.
And I was very strategic about where I went to work, and I wanted to pick the best place, and the place that had the houses with the most listings, and that was the one. And so I get there, and it's totally different. It's like this huge office with like 90 agents, and the office we worked in Orlando had 6. Right. And we would round robin the phones. All of our leads came in from the Boston Globe. So he would put an ad in the Globe, and the phone would go off, and then we would take turns, and we would just round robin it, right? So, and we didn't really get internet leads. We would ask him about those, but he would let us know about them, and it was always weird. Like he was keeping them to himself. But we always asked him, what about the internet? Does anything come in off the internet? So this is 2001.
And he's like, no.
This is 2001, you know.
He's like, these are not the droids.
Yeah, we didn't think there was anything coming in off of them, you know.
Yeah.
And there was this website, BostonApartments.com, and you would pay to get leads from them.
Or just get a banner ad.
To get a banner ad, right. So that's what he did, and he was getting leads, and whatever. So we were okay, we were happy because the phone was ringing, so it didn't matter, you know. Sure. And when I came down here to Florida at Caldwell Banker, there was no sitting by the phone. There was 90 agents. I was like, holy shit, how am I going to get leads? It was pretty scary, dude.
Yeah.
And
so did you have to generate your own leads?
Totally different. Yeah, I had to do the whole knocking on neighborhoods thing and say, hey, we've got someone who's interested in this neighborhood. Right. Are you interested in selling? And I got myself into trouble plenty of times in the office because I would go into neighborhoods and they were like a certain agent's neighborhood, and I couldn't canvass that neighborhood.
all this office
all this crazy stuff, and I started doing like open houses. Open houses are on Sundays, right? I started doing open houses every day for agents that had listings so that I could get people in there and build the buyer list. And it was terrible. Like I said, screw this. I didn't make any money. And you know, she started working double shifts at the used to be a Sam Sneed's that was over here. Yeah. And no longer. And you know, she was busting her ass, really working hard, and I wasn't making any money. And I said, you know, I'm going to get into this timeshare racket. It seems to be like a big deal down here in Florida. Right. It's kind of like if you were in Wall Street.
The way a timeshare works, probably most people know, but just really quickly, you basically invest in a fraction of a property, so you get like a week of it a year or whatever. Yeah. And again, they're pretty hot in Orlando.
Yeah, it's like Orlando's like the Wall Street, like how stocks are for Wall Street, timeshares are for Orlando. It's like a really big deal down here. So, you know, and I said, you know, let me go do this. Like I felt, you know, like it was a sleazy thing, and it was like, you know, high pressure sales, and I didn't feel good about doing it because I'm not really a high pressure kind of guy. Right. So it bothered me a little bit, but I said to myself, you know, I've never really had really good sales training. I mean, I had okay sales training with the stock stuff, and I mean, at Dunkin' Donuts, I worked the counter every day, so I had like people skills, but I never really like understood the psychology and the science of sales. So I was like, I'm going to go through this and see if this is really good, because I have friends who are doing it.
And you actually got coaching with somebody who is like really good at it.
Yeah, like you, like I can't remember the guy's name, it was so long ago, but he's one of the top timeshare salesmen in Orlando, and I work for a resort called Fairfield Resort, which is owned by Sendet, which is a huge company. They own Caldwell Banker, and
All right, we had the video cut out on us, but luckily I am a trained video pro, and my ear honed right in on it. So we took a brief break. I got a little bit more coffee, and we turned on the pool light. And but by the way, you would have noticed, I'll leave it in the video. When I checked with Heather to make sure the video was still rolling.
Yep. You
see, this is important things to know when it comes to video creation.
Yes.
I tell people when it comes to video, so often they don't want to reshoot, or they get discouraged if a video doesn't go off right. They don't want to do it again.
Gotta keep going.
Well, and it's the same thing. It's like video editing is a lot like, would you write an important letter to somebody you really cared about and you wouldn't edit it?
Right.
And it's crazy. And the same thing. Sometimes you just have to reshoot something lock, stock, and barrel, and that works out for the best. But anyways, that's just a little video side. So you're working, and you just moved into working into timeshare.
I did, and I got the best sales training anybody could ever get. I really understood the psychology of selling, and I learned a lot of techniques like the tie down and the alternate close.
So what's the tie down with the alternate close?
Alternate close is you're testing people as you're bringing them through, you're getting people to say, how do you feel about, well, I'm sorry, alternate close, that's tie down. Alternate close is, so do you want to get together today or tomorrow?
Right.
Do you want to get together at 1 or 3?
Right.
So you give them
whatever they choose. Yeah.
So do you like hardwood floors or do you prefer carpet?
Right. So the point is, what you're doing at that point is you're moving past the sales decision.
Yes.
And you're kind of assuming the sales decision and moving into, do you like this or this?
Yeah, it's like a discovery period. So like if they say I want hardwood floors and then you show them something with hardwood floors, it can't be about the hardwood floors now if they say no.
Right, so if it's like the classic thing with the, what is it, the less filling tastes great. Like was that Miller Lite or something like that? One of these beer things where they're like, less filling tastes great, but like regardless, you're already drinking Miller Lite, so who cares?
Right, exactly.
All right, great.
Porcupine is like, so ask me, does it have hardwood floors?
Does it have hardwood floors?
Would you like for it to have hardwood floors?
Right.
That's a porcupine.
Why is that a porcupine? Because you're sticky everywhere?
Well, yeah, I'm putting it back at you. I'm taking what you asked me, and then I said, would you like for it to have hardwood floors?
Yes, I would.
And then that's great. Now I know that you want hardwood floors, so let's go give you hardwood floors.
And what's the tie down?
The tie down is, that's okay, so that's when you try to get them to say yes. So you ask a question in a way that has them say yes. So wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And you tie them down to saying yes. So you want, so like you bring them and you show them the pool and you say, this pool is amazing, wouldn't you agree? Yes. This, exercise room is amazing, wouldn't you agree? Yes.
Right, as opposed to training, not so much training people, but as opposed to like getting people in a mode of saying no.
Yes, you want to get them in a mode of saying yes,
okay,
yes.
And
so it's easy to say yes when you close them at the end.
Right, exactly. So now this is one of the things I see people messing this up in internet marketing a lot, where they'll make statements, they'll put statements out there, have you ever felt like such and such, and it's not a universal thing.
Yes.
Right? Like that's a real dangerous thing to do. I really like to leave things, if I put something out there, I want it to be pretty universal. Mm-hmm. So, if I say, listen, if you're coming to this web page, it probably means that you or somebody who you really care about is struggling right now. Then that's pretty hard to argue with.
Right.
Right? But if I just say, if you're coming to this page, let's say it's like relationship advice. If you're coming to this page, it probably means that you're waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats, crying. Your life is pure suffering. Like that is too it's too hardcore. And the point is, the worst thing about it is, even if somebody says yes, you probably should press them and they're just gonna click off the page anyways.
Right.
So it's more like with like my friend Travis Sago, who's got The Magic of Making Up, which is a really great ebook. It's a great affiliate product as well, and
he's an incredible marketer.
Yeah, Travis is terrific. It's terrific. And so he'll say stuff like, I know what it's like. I've gone through breakups when I just can't even turn on the radio, and because every song that comes up reminds me of that other person. And this is a really common feeling, but he's not assigning that feeling to the reader. He's assigning that feeling to himself. And that's really nice because it takes the edge off. It's a tough situation. Right. Everyone knows, like, okay, I know why you're on this webpage, wink, wink, but I'm not going to throw it in your face.
Right.
The same thing with a tie down. What you're trying to do is you're trying to bring people along with you. Make them more comfortable. Kind of signal to them that you've been in their shoes. Yeah. That you have a lot of the same feelings that they have. hey man, this pool blows me away. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, it does blow me away. Wow, that's really cool. And something that everyone can just kind of keep clicking on.
You know, I highly recommend reading or getting the audiobook, The Art of Selling by Tommy Hopkins.
Really?
Absolutely incredible. It's like, I think you can only get it in cassette. You might not, now you can probably get it in CD, but back then you could only get it in cassette, and I used to listen to that on the way to work. And
yeah.
You learn all these little techniques. And
sure.
You don't realize how important this stuff is, but it really is important. Like, when I got into info publishing, info marketing, I didn't take sales copy seriously. I was in money-getting mode, and I didn't realize how important headlines were and subject.
Although you're still making money. See, I gotta say, like, I see people get bogged down.
It's amazing. When I started in 07, I was like on track to do 50,000 that year. But then when I tuned my copy up and tuned my emails up, we quadrupled our business and went on to do 250,000.
Although the good news is that first 50,000 really matters. So I gotta say, the thing to keep in mind is, don't let the lack of copywriting skills or lack of sales skills, don't let that be in your way. Weirdly enough, you can screw up so many things online and still make a lot of money, and then you can get around to that copywriting, to that sales copy, if you haven't gotten to it yet.
Be okay with constantly improving. That's what this business is about.
For sure. Okay, so you're saying that you're learning these great great techniques.
Yeah, it was really weird. I couldn't really sell in timeshare. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't do it. I don't know if there was just a lot of stress going on with other stuff.
Well, you said it was high pressure. You're not a high pressure.
Yeah, I just had a hard time with it. I sold one.
I know what it's like. I went from working at Fuddruckers to very briefly working at a Qzx.
Yeah.
And Fuddruckers was a very easygoing environment. I made a ton of money there, like on tips and stuff like that as well. And I made a fraction of the tips working at Qzx. It was like at a mall. It was much more high pressure, and there was a lot of competitiveness between the servers, and it just wasn't for me. I just don't have that mentality where I want to look somebody in the eyes and say, do or die, buddy.
Right.
You're going to, you know, and I know some people have that mentality and it really works for them.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, it didn't for me either. I was able to do something that I guess rarely ever happens, where like the people are supposed to buy there. And I had people come back and buy, which is the only people I ever sold.
So again, that was a little bit more of a lead generation thing, and
it was more of
a relationship sale.
Yeah, and I didn't do well at it, but I learned a lot. And
now, how did you transition? I know at some point you started running pay-per-click ads and getting your own leads that way. How did you make that transition?
So I was doing this for the resort, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I was in Florida, and you know, we were just broke. It was like February of 2002. We were broke, and we just had no money. And I was sick of her working so much and nothing coming in. And I was getting up at like 5 in the morning to be there at 6:30, and nothing was happening. And I said, you know what? Season's about to start in Boston, and I know if I go back up there, I can kill it this summer, because the season in Boston for real estate is in the spring and in the summer. I said, I know I can make like almost 100 grand, you know, just doing that, and I can rent apartments out and kill it. And so I did a little research and figured out who was all over the internet when you would type Boston real estate, Boston apartments, and I just kept seeing this guy come up, this one website. It was like #1 for Boston real estate, Boston apartments, Boston no-fee apartments, and he was #1, and I was like, that's who I want to work for. And my buddy, who had never left, my best friend, he had stayed up there. He said, yeah, dude, you definitely want to work for him. I see his stuff, his cars everywhere from his agents, and he's got all the high-end stuff. So I called the guy up, and I said, hey man, I live in Florida, I've got a license from Boston, I want to come back up there, and I want to work for you. And I work for Coldwell Banker right now. I worked for Coldwell Banker before. I'm in the timeshare industry now. I've had incredible sales training, all designed by Tommy Hopkins, and people in real estate know who Tommy Hopkins is because he's a big real estate guy, so he knew who he was. And excuse me. And he's like, well, yeah, man, if you can get up here and do an interview with me, I'll consider hiring you, you know. And I don't think he thought I was serious. Yeah. Because I was in Florida, and he's like, yeah, if you can get up here, I'll do an interview with you. Sure. And she was my girlfriend at the time, was a flight attendant, and all I did was jump on a plane, and I was up here the next day, and I showed up at his office, and I think I spooked him, and he loved that I did that, that I took massive action and showed up, and he hired me on the spot. And I went to work for him the next day. I rented like 3 apartments. They were like $3,000 apartments. I made $1,500 on each one. I made like $4,500 the next day. Yeah. That was it. I didn't even tell my girlfriend that, because she had started flying again. So I didn't even tell her that I did this. I just went and did it. Because I knew if I told her, she was going to talk me out of it. Yeah. And she's like, you know, we just moved down here. It goes to show,
like, having a good home life that really supports what you're doing really matters.
And it wasn't that, she was going to be in a negative way. It's just like, I didn't want to deal with the whole, like, no, don't go up there. You know, I just wanted to do it.
Well, that's one of the nice things about internet marketing. So often, like, when you're working on your computer, other people, like, they know you're working on the internet, but they don't know what you're doing. Right. So oftentimes, I don't bring it up.
Yeah. It wasn't like, there wasn't that there was anything negative from her. It was just like, I didn't want to just like have to ask her. I knew as a man that we were broke. We needed to make money.
No, I mean, I
hunter mentality kicked in.
I think that seriously matters. Like not having like somebody looking over your shoulder, like having 5 people that you have to talk to every time.
I didn't want to hear anything from anybody.
And the same thing goes for family and dealing with friends. Like it's your life. Like, you know, God gave you awareness, gave you a body, it's yours. It
was hunter mentality kicking in, like instinct. Like, I don't want to get derailed from this. This is what we're doing. I know.
So this guy had a pretty serious online presence. Did you pick up on that?
I did after I went to work there, because the leads that were coming in were insane. They were like high-end leads, like from relocation customers for relocating with big companies like Bain Capital and Ropes and Gray, which is one of the biggest law firms in Boston, and Fleet Bank at the time, which ended up getting bought up by Bank of America, and it was just like the relo leads were the best leads, right? And they were the people that were getting the best apartments, and they were action takers. They didn't have time to like look at a bunch of stuff. You know, you showed them a really nice high rise. Okay, I'll take it. It's next to work. I'm fine. I'm happy with it. So it was like, it was easy, dude. It was like magic. You know, I made so much money that summer. I made like $180,000 that summer. It was an incredible summer. It was like everything just turned around, and it was like, wow, there's hope again, you know. And so winter set in, and you know, things kind of slowed down, but it was okay. I was fat, dumb, and happy. I had a bunch of cash coming in, and you know, being in the office, he was on the first page, like we said. He was always in the top 3.
So he's just dominating.
Yeah, he was dominating the search engines, and there was an update, and his sites kind of got hit, and I figured out that, like, at the time Yahoo was really big. It wasn't Google. Yeah. They were kind of starting, but not really. They still didn't have a market share. And I was, you know, messing around on Yahoo, and I figured out that there was like this little link by the sponsored ads. And I was like, I clicked it, and I'm like, oh, you can add, these are advertisements. I didn't know there were advertisements, and he didn't know there were advertisements. Weird. And then I was like, Michael, we can advertise here, so now we can have 2 spots on the first page, you know? Right. And so we got into the whole PPC thing, and
that was
and it's just like you know, that's what caused me to have such a great, you know, a great summer, you know. And he was having like crazy. He was having like $100,000 days, because he had like 10 of us working for him, you know. So he was killing.
So now at this point, you're dialed into traffic.
Well, I saw it was exposed to the power of what the internet could do. For like, it was my first time ever seeing it.
So what took you from there to staking out on your own?
There's something here. Well, our boss was a little bit crazy. He was half Italian, half Irish. Nothing against Irish Italian. The guy loved to drink, and he would go on these benders and disappear for like a week. Oh, wow. And we would be like, dude, where's Michael? We need him to close these deals and to do this stuff. Sure. And I brought my best friend over from the other firm he was at, and he's still to this day my best friend. He lives down here in Florida. He moved down here with me. We're like brothers that we never had. Cool. He doesn't have any brothers. I don't have any brothers. We're like best friends. And I brought him over, and you know, both of us were like, dude, we had just come off an awesome summer. I mean, summers in Boston are incredible when they're on. You're making money. We're on Newbury Street, which is like a big deal. It's like where all the prestigious stores are. It's just like you're surrounded by wealth and success. Yeah, you're making money, and everything is good, and we just came off an amazing summer, and this shit starts to happen with Michael, and you know, and Alex and I are like, we can't count on this. This is not good. Like, we can't put our future. We thought this was the guy that we were gonna, you know.
You thought you were gonna go all the way with this.
We did.
Suddenly, a few months later,
we did, bro. Like,
and some things are showing up that are concerning you.
That were good. We didn't like it, and so we decided that like we were gonna go out on our own, and so I started learning I knew that we didn't have. First of all, I knew that we didn't have the money. Like we didn't have the money to spring for an office. Like an office on Newbury Street is like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. Yeah. Retarded like that, you know. We didn't have the cash for that, and we didn't want to, you know, start a new business and have to worry about all these expenditures. So Alex had it was his idea. He had the idea. He's like, dude, there are these things called virtual offices, and there's one over at Park Plaza, which is near the Four Seasons, like a really prestigious part of town near the Boston Commons. And he's like, dude, we can get an office over there for $400 a month, and we get the 20 Park Plaza address, and it's a beautiful like office, and you can have a conference room, and nobody will know that that's not like a real office, you know, and we can piggyback off that address. And most of our clients are coming off the internet. I mean, he had the whole thing in his head. So, you know, we could have the name of the company, which was Rex Real Estate, which means king in Latin. Yeah. And, you know, 20 Park Plaza, and people are going to think, whoa, this place is the bomb. Yeah. They don't know that Newbury Street, people moving from other parts don't know what Newbury Street is. They just think it's another street. But you see 20 Park Plaza, it sounds prestigious in someone's mind. Sure. So I figured out how to get a website going. There was this company called iHouse2000.com. I think they're still around, and they make these amazing websites for like the push button websites for real estate people. And I made as beautiful of a site as I could make. The one feature that they had that was incredible is you could easily upload these beautiful pictures and do these galleries.
Which is obviously so important for real estate.
Yeah, which is really important.
And you're driving on your tracking display with these Yahoo ads.
Yeah, well, so nobody had websites that had these galleries. So we put floor plans up. We went to all the apartment buildings, took pictures, and we set up this gorgeous site. Nobody had sites that had all the pictures like we did. We were like one of the first ones to do all these crazy pictures.
So this is like real estate heyday time for you. Like at this point, you're like, I can get traffic. I can connect to this great looking website.
we got a listing with BostonApartments.com with $600 a year, which we could put as many ads as we wanted on there. And he got a ton of traffic. We did some PPC. I started targeting like the buildings because the PPCs were so cheap. They were like 5 cents, 10 cents. Nobody was targeting, you know, the buildings.
The names of the buildings.
Like Charles River Park Apartments and the Devonshire Apartments.
So people are like, I've heard Devonshire is good. They type it in, and boom, there's your ad.
Rex Real Estate's right there, you know. And at the time, because the market had flipped because of 9/11, the buildings were the ones now paying your fees, not the customers. Right. So we bought BostonNoFeeApartments.com, and that was the site, and people would go to Devonshire and they'd see BostonApartments.com, and when they click the link, it would bring them right to the Devonshire. It wouldn't bring them to the home page of the site, right? So like we would just generate leads like crazy, scheduling appointments, like they schedule appointment forms, and it was like nuts, dude. It was like unbelievable. Now we didn't have to give away half. You know, we did a $3,000 apartment. We got to keep the $3,000. That's great. You know, it was like Alex does this dance where he like can jump up and click both of his heels like Irish style. He would do those all the time.
That's
you know,
great. Good for him.
We would have these.
Yeah, it's important to celebrate these moments.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. And I remember many of the nights we would stay up all night working on that dang site. And I went and bought. So what ended up happening was I went and bought this really thick book called Search Engine Positioning. Yeah. From a guy named Fred Marchini. I'd never heard of him. I went to Barnes and Noble, dude, and I said, you know, there's got to be a way to get on the first page too, because like. You know, we were spending...
So this is where you start getting into SEO.
Yeah, this is where I started getting into SEO, and it was that winter of 2002, and I started just reading the book, and I started figuring out what I needed to do, and I realized that the site that we had, I couldn't do that because it was a dynamic site, meaning that it didn't have static web pages. How do I say, what's a good way to explain static?
It just, Google couldn't see it very well.
Yeah, Google couldn't see it well, and I had to create feeder sites, so sites that like Google could see well,
but then channel them.
That would drive the traffic to that site.
And is this how you built that 40,000 person list, basically between the pay-per-clicks and the...
No, the 40,000 person list is when I did the info publishing in 2007.
Oh, wow.
So this is 2002, 2003. So we had these feeder sites that were lead capture sites, and they would also feed into the other site too. Like after the people would opt in, we would drive them to the other site with the pictures. But we didn't do autoresponders or any of that stuff. I didn't know about any of that stuff. I just knew that I had to get their name and phone number because I needed to call them back and talk to them about the property. So it was like, we didn't put them in autoresponder, we called them when they filled out the form.
Sure.
And so I just learned SEO, and I bought all the domain names of all the high-rises. Nobody had them. So I bought them all, and I built the sites up, and I had like Boston Back Bay Real Estate and Beacon Hill Boston Real Estate, and I had all the boroughs, and you couldn't get links back then like you can today. There was no Web 2.0. There was no...
Yeah, like SEO back in that day was pretty much about what was on your page.
That, and it was about... off-page factors too, but it was really hard to get
Yeah,
links.
there was so much less controllable back then.
Yeah, like you couldn't.
Well, for one thing, there was less sites out there.
Yeah, number one. And number two, people didn't understand it. So if I went to a realtor in California and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a link from my Boston websites. You give me a link from your site.
And we'll both benefit. He
And
had no
we'll both
idea.
benefit. They wouldn't do it because they thought that they were going to lose the visitor to me. If they thought if the visitor hit their site, they were going to click. I mean, if someone is visiting a California website, there's no reason for them to click a Boston real estate link, you know?
But they're not thinking that way.
They're not thinking,
You can't make that
so it was
deal.
really hard. I couldn't get links that way. So I said to myself, well, I started thinking, what if I built my own network of links, you know? And I had all these sites, all these domain names.
Yeah.
And so I just linked them all together. I cross-linked them all together, you know, which back then was okay. Like,
Sure.
It wasn't a big deal. And I remember going on SEO forums and talking about, you know, people would talk about, like, is it okay to have all the domain names showing that you own them all? And people would be like, oh, there's no way Google's going to figure it out that you own them all. There's no way. I remember having these conversations with people.
Definitely. Now, so how long did it last? Like, obviously, you went on a total binge with SEO.
It was crazy because the sites were local sites, right? They ranked so easy.
Yeah.
Like, it was like within 60 days, I dominated. I had 37 websites, dominated the whole Boston real estate area. Like, all the high rises, all the boroughs.
So
we were generating
tons
of leads per day. And the business just basically exploded. I brought on a bunch of people that leads I couldn't handle. I started giving out to them. And the business just blew up, like out of hand, like crazy. It like overnight became like.
And the funny thing about this is, you could say, well, that opportunity's gone. But I'll tell you what, this happens all the time nowadays in the internet.
Yeah.
Like all the time. Like these little geysers of leads are just here, there, and everywhere.
It just
in fact, if anything, it was like more rare back then. Now, with so many more people online, so many people. Remember, 7 billion people are coming, or 3 billion people are coming online in the next 7 years. 3 billion more people in the next 7 years.
It's huge. Like, if you put that into perspective, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And Michael put that into perspective for me a couple of days ago, and it threw me back because I never really looked at that or even thought about looking at that.
Well, and just people, you know, they use the internet more and more. Like, just like when Walmart first came out, like everyone didn't go to it, but after a while, now everybody does.
Well, you get caught up in the day-to-day if you're running your business and you don't step away and look 30,000 feet above like you do in that case, and you're like, whoa, you threw that number at me a couple of days ago, and I was like, whoa, we have still a long way to go.
Yeah,
it's like
because if you had the skills now that you had back then, you know, you'd probably be retired at this point. Now, of course, you still did great.
Yes.
So
I had a choice. There was actually a fork in the road.
Yeah.
Because as I was learning about this SEO stuff, I came into the funnel through Brad and Andy. They had a product. It was an MP3.
Yeah, stopping the search engines.
Stopping the search engines. That's how I came into the IM world, was through them. And I started to learn about affiliate marketing, and the fork in the road presented itself to me. I started doing PPC for hotel stuff. And at the time, there was this affiliate program called World Choice Travel. It was a private label.
Now just to catch everyone up to see that's 2004. Had you stopped doing this stuff in Boston and all the SEO stuff? Had that kind of died down? And then
Okay, so then in November of 2003, there was a huge update called the Florida
update.
I got my ass spanked.
Okay, great.
Lost all the sites.
Yeah.
And I woke up one morning and I was shitting in my britches. I was like, what am I going to do? I got all these people working for me. All the sites are gone. I started to freak out. And I then said, well, it's going to be okay. I know a little bit about PPC. I'd stopped doing PPC because I didn't have to.
So you started doing it again.
So I started doing it again, except I didn't know anything about Google PPC. I had only done Yahoo PPC. So at the time, Google started to take over now. It started to happen.
No, that was right around that time.
I saw it go down. It was crazy, and it was like I remember Google coming onto the scene and people being like, "What is this Google?" And then all of a sudden, Google was everywhere. It was really weird. And so then I had to learn that PPC, and I learned it, and just got really good at targeting, you know, what leads we wanted to go after and the buildings that we wanted to go after.
And a lot of this must have been born from just all this door-to-door stuff that you're doing. You're like, you know, maybe it's hard to do pay-per-click advertising, but it's way easier than going door-to-door.
Yeah. and then I talked myself into being like, I had spent a lot of time on the SEO. Like, I had removed myself from doing deals and just focus on
Well,
SEO.
and one of the things that you're also doing is also just focusing on training. Because like, you know, with Brad and Andy, ultimately I helped them found Stompernet like not too long after that, about 2 years after the search engine's launch. And you're somebody who's really committed to getting training, to getting coaching, to get coaching, to understanding this stuff.
Yes.
And so, okay, so you get stopping the search engines, you come to a fork in the road, you're doing consulting for the hotels.
Affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, am I going to do affiliate marketing?
Or am I going to stick with the real estate?
And so what
I decided to stick with the real estate
yeah.
because the deals were just so big. Like you know, like the condos are like.
Well, you're passionate about real estate at the time.
It was just fast money, like fast and furious.
And the market was really, really big.
And the hotel thing, the money was good, but I had to wait for it. Like I didn't get paid until the reservation fulfilled. So like people would, I positioned myself to do all the luxury stuff, like Ritz-Carlton hotels.
Sure.
Because the packages were big and the commissions were fat, but like I didn't get paid for until 30 days after the reservation fulfilled, and I was shelling out the PPC cash.
Really goes to show that when you're working with outsourcers, when you're working with affiliates, seeing to it that they know they're going to get paid, and B, that they do get paid quickly.
Really important.
Really
the cash flow was really a deciding factor. Like it was like, well, I can keep doing this, and it was hard to do both because I had to also run the real estate stuff. So I mean, it did run somewhat on autopilot, but I had to watch my campaigns and make sure that stuff, you know, didn't get out of hand. And I just said, you know what, I don't have the time and attention to do this, so I'm going to stop the affiliate stuff and I'm going to just focus on the real estate. And that's what I did.
And that basically carried you. You were very successful basically between the training that you got, I mean, just incredibly successful, between having a mastery over search marketing, some pay-per-click stuff, and all the way up to the real estate boom, you're just killing it.
Killing it. Rode the market up. Started another firm in Florida, bought all the subdivision domain names in Florida, all the pre-construction projects, bought all the domains, nobody had them. We put sites up for everything. We were killing it down here. We were bringing people from Boston to Florida. We had a pre-construction site called Pre-Construction
And I would say at this point, like because obviously when the real estate market crashed, the problem was you were really invested in it.
Yes.
And so then you had to start from scratch. But if you were to do it again, and I think that you really come from the perspective now, that if you were in another market that crashed, it would be fine because you're not as cash invested in things. Like your cash investment is more into your bank account at this point.
Correct.
And it's a critical lesson because it can be so easy to think this is going to go on forever. Yeah. But when your business is your bank account, it's a lot safer of a feeling. It's a lot more confident of a feeling.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought my bank account was all the property that I owned. So it wasn't. I put a lot of money back into buying a lot of property because that's what I was doing. It was in real estate. I believed in the story. I believed in what was happening.
And then, whoosh.
And then it just, the house of cards came crumbling down.
So now how did you transition from there? You're like, okay, I've got some skills. Like what led you to joining into the internet marketing marketplace? Because at this point, obviously you've got some chops. You've done so much sales. You know so much about driving traffic and converting it. Obviously there was more to learn from there.
Well, I knew that there was something in this info publishing thing. I remember when Corey Rudel passed away, because I was on Brad and Andy's letter, so I got the update, you know, and I got the pictures of the car, and I was like, you know, it was like...
They sent pictures of the car?
Well, they sent pictures, yeah, like of the, because it was the newspaper, there was pictures of the car. It was a Porsche.
Oh, I would have shown that. Anyways, yeah, that sucks.
It was depressing.
No, it was horrible.
But, you know, they had said in the...
just to give context, Corey Rudel founded an internet marketing center sometime probably in the early 2000s. And he was just made a huge impact on the online marketing world. You know, he really had a wonderful influence, built a huge affiliate network, taught people how to get traffic, how to convert it, and just had a major impact. And when he passed away in a tragic car accident, it just sent a shockwave.
It was incredible. I hadn't known who he was until that happened, and then I started investigating it, and I realized, like, it had said that he had made millions of dollars in info publishing, and I started to become curious about that. And as I was doing real estate, the whole time I would come across your info sales letter, and because I was intrigued by that kind of stuff, and I always wondered about it. It was always in the back of my mind.
So like, yeah, because if you're in the stock in the search engines funnel, then probably, I don't think that you saw probably necessarily product launch formula came out, but you certainly were aware of Stompernet.
Yes.
Because that was a bit, you know, that list got hit. So that's when Brad and Andy and Brad, Andy, and David Mills we're working on that with Frank Kern and John Reese and like everybody who helped make that like a really big huge
It's crazy having you in my house, bro.
Kelly Phillips. Yeah, definitely. Very cool. No, it's great for me. By the way, we're right down the street from where John Reese and I kicked off most of the training or most of the behind the scenes work behind Traffic Secrets. John put together that incredible launch.
It was amazing.
Came up with this incredible affiliate paradigm, and it was really a great success. So at that point, you're like, I need a paradigm shift. I'm going to shift into online real estate instead of.
Well, what happened was all by accident. You know, like I had lost everything, like millions of dollars in real estate. My business stopped. Like when Bear Stearns crashed, like literally, it was March of '07. Like everything stopped. Like we had so many deals in the pipeline. We would go to the closing table, and the banks wouldn't fund the deals for our buyers.
Right.
We couldn't get buyers to commit to putting new offers in because they knew that the market was coming, the crash was coming.
Yeah.
And sellers, we couldn't get them to be realistic about the price because
basically it was a mess.
It was a disaster. Like 6 months ago, they had refied at a high price. It was a total disaster. We had a huge nut, no money coming in. And I couldn't make any payments on anything. It was like, I can't believe this is happening. I worked so hard to get here, and it's all crumbling so fast. And what started to happen was I couldn't make the payments on my properties, and real estate agents started calling me saying, hey, I got to do a BPO on your property. When's a good time? And I'm like, a BPO? What the hell's a BPO? I don't know what that is. And they're like, it's a broker price opinion. And I'm like, could you please explain it? I'm not going to go show up at my house and let you in. I don't know what you're talking about. And then they explain that it's like getting an appraisal on your house, except it's not federally certified like an appraiser. Appraisal is from an appraiser.
Right.
And the banks use BPO, they use real estate agents to do BPOs because it's half the cost.
Yeah.
And the bank, when they foreclose, they need to know what the house is worth so that they can put it on the market. So they get these BPOs done. And then I said, you get paid by the banks to do these? And the guy's like, yeah. So I met him at my house and showed him the house. He had his thing that he needed to fill out for the bank, and then after he was done, I offered him a drink and a Coca-Cola or something. I talked to him, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And he told me that the banks were paying him about $150 to do my house, and the light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, this is going to be the future. Like, I know I'm not the only agent that's dealing with this right now, and I know I'm not the only agent that hasn't heard about this because we didn't do foreclosure stuff. The market was hot. Like, if you were a foreclosure investor and you came to me and you were looking for foreclosure, I would say, hey man, that's not my specialty.
Sure.
You need to go talk to someone else because I have another person right here who's hot and heavy to buy something right now. That there's not a foreclosure that's going to drive me nuts. And try to cut me out of the deal, right? So I just didn't know anything about BPOs and short sales, which is like a foreclosure term, and REO, which means real estate owned.
Yeah, short sale means selling a house for less than it was bought.
Less than it's worth, and REO means real estate owned. It's when the bank actually does take the property over and they do foreclose on it and then they sell it. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. So I went back home and I got on the internet and I typed up BPO and I couldn't find any info on it. And I thought to myself, well, this is crazy. There's nothing here. And then I thought to myself, this is what it's going to be like. Like, there's millions of foreclosures coming on the market. So I created an info product called the BPO Kit.
So this is like you making your own stopping the search engines or whatever on this stuff, and then you use all the search engine stuff and the
PPC stuff and everything that drives the traffic to the sales page.
And you did a lot of stuff, like you go to events, you hand out cards to people to kind of get people excited about like just getting a free course from you to like get started, even just to sell hosting. So now at this point you're an info marketer now. You've now made the shift from real estate, from selling a physical thing to selling info. And then
two totally different psychologies.
And so this is really cool. You're talking, you and Heather were telling me this story last night. One day it all comes crashing down, like SEO's gone, pay-per-click's gone, all at once. And you're like looking around, you're like, oh my gosh, it all came to a halt.
Yeah, March 2010, Google banned me from doing PPC on their network because I was an affiliate marketer and I was promoting launches, and they didn't like that I was doing that. And
and you were out of that. You were out of SEO at this point.
Yeah, the Florida update in 03, I had done some SEO for the REO kit, like I'd done some blog feeder sites and stuff. But it wasn't like, it was just there to subsidize the PPC, it was more of a brand thing. Like they're seeing the REO kit everywhere and the BPO kit everywhere. They're seeing Anthony Aries everywhere.
So this is such a cool story. So you're looking around, you have another one of these dark moments, these gut check moments. I hope that
I was on the ledge for a week after I got banned from Google.
Well, and this is one of the great things about somebody watching this. You can see like the ups and downs that can go in entrepreneurial life. And that's not to say, hey, start the ups and downs. Certainly learn the lesson about cash being more important. You know, one of the big things that I do is I have a floor. I always think to myself, man, like, I mean, I remember times in my life when I was making, I'd make $45,000 in a month, and I'd be sleeping on an air mattress, reading a paperback book, and happy as anything.
Yes.
Not like, living in a cheap apartment, and just being like, I'm the king of the world, right? Like not because I'm on some big cruise ship, but because, I just made $45,000, and I just gave myself the gift of $45,000 in my bank account. And that's a really, really cool feeling.
Huge.
And, but this is a lesson born of a lot of these same kind of ups and downs that Anthony's talking about. I think you're being really, really generous with this stuff. If you get to the punchline, I know the punchline, I want to deliver it. It comes to you. You've got a list.
Yeah, like it was weird. It took me a week to figure that out. But I had been lucky enough to stumble upon something that taught me. Like I said, I was building a list before in the real estate space, but I wasn't, doing follow-ups or autoresponder stuff with them. I stumbled upon that, and after doing the info stuff, I stumbled upon building a squeeze page in Aweber and built my list. And by the time it happened, we had about a 40,000 person email list. But the getting the Google rug pulled out from under me had affected me so much.
Because having the list, we just talked about the bank account.
Yeah.
Having a list is a lot like having a bank account. We're not just talking about a list of people. We're talking about a list of people where you have a relationship with those people. Where they respect you, where they respect your opinion, where a reasonable number of them open up your emails when you send them out.
Yeah.
And will take action.
Totally.
And so at that point, you started promoting offers to your list, whether it was your offers or other people's offers. Yeah. And what happened from there?
Everything was okay. Like, was able to, be on cruise control until it was good. Like when you talk about the ups and downs of an entrepreneur, as you're going through this stuff, it's devastating. Like you think like that week was a devastating week for me. Like it was hard for me to shake myself out of it. But when I did, and through the help of Heather, she helped me realize we're okay. Like we got a list. There's things we can do. We can stick and move. But what you need to understand is when stuff like that's happening to you, it's devastating at the time. But I look back on it now, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Yeah. I didn't see it then. You never see it then, right? Like I didn't see like when I lost my millions of dollars in real estate, and I was going through that. I didn't see that was good for me then. But I look back on it now. It was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It freed me. Like I love the real estate, but I love the internet marketing
we were
stuff
talking about last
way
night
better.
when we were in the car, and you're talking about this guy who's making a lot of money, but he's going to event after event after event, and all of us were like, class canceled. We were like, no thanks.
Yeah. And he's doing $10 million a year, and we're just like, man, it's not worth. It's not worth the money. Like,
have fun, buddy.
Yeah. And that's what kind of had happened to me in real estate. Like I built this big animal, but I wasn't really happy with it. Like I liked the SEO and I liked the PPC and the stuff that I was doing. Like that's what I loved. But the real estate had shifted. Like I started there and then I shifted into IM. And so when the whole thing fell apart, I was like miserable, but I was happy too. Like this is like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Like looking back on it, it was like the best thing ever. And then the PPC thing, getting banned in 2010 was the best thing ever because it forced me to reinvent myself. It forced me to look at like other alternatives, and that's how I got into video marketing. Yeah, it was totally
because if we fast forward today, just what like maybe last week you added like 4,000 or 5,000 new buyer leads to your list with a brand new launch.
Yeah,
so I think this has just been an extremely valuable journey. We a little bit glossed over you getting into the internet marketing space, but really like at the point where you're doing lead generation, you manage to build a 40,000 person list, you know how to make money off of that. Then at some point,
and it didn't happen right away. It took a lot of emails to figure it out. So
one of the things I believe it was actually specifically Tim Atkinson who helped you make the transition from being in real estate to helping people like learn some of the things that you had learned.
Yes.
Other people as well.
Tim inspired me to launch my first WSO. If it wasn't for Tim, I would not have been. And the WSOs were a special offer. and it's something that you launch on the Warrior Forum.
Yeah, it's a good springboard to getting into the rest of the internet marketing world.
And if it wasn't for him, I would have not done it. And he was the main reason he was the main guy that inspired me to do it. And Tim has got an uncanny way of getting people to take massive action.
Boom.
And boom.
Yeah.
And he did. And you know, I had discovered video marketing after the Google slap and the Google ban and the video. It's like what's brought me here today. Like I'm one of the video guys on the forum.
Yeah, you make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at this point.
I do.
You get to work from home.
I do. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I sucked at making videos at first. I used to sit out in the back porch. We used to live in Naples. And when I made my first video, it was July of 2008. And for folks who are familiar with Florida, you live in these subdivisions and the houses are pretty close to each other. And Naples is a lot of retirees. It's a retirement community. And, you know, retirees live at home, you know. And Heather would go off to work at school. She was a teacher. And I would go on the back porch and I would shoot my videos, you know, my upsell videos and for the REO kit.
Sure.
And I would use this little flip cam.
I love the flip cam.
And these people would be having their coffee in the morning,
like, what is this guy doing?
And I'd be screaming into it because there was no mic, right? There was no hookup, and they would be looking at me like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And I would take because the wind would come, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, I got to do it over again."
Well, we talked about that before. You have to have that willingness to do take after take after take with video. But if you do it, it's really wonderful.
You just get good at it. The more you do it, the better off. It's going to be, and I'm not saying this to discourage you, it's going to be a little frustrating in the beginning, but you can't let that bother you. You just have to do it and do it and do it, and then you're just going to get good at it. And then the next thing you know, you're free flowing.
Yeah,
we are
also,
here.
Yeah, watching your own videos really helps as well. Well, I got to tell you, I think this was extremely valuable, and I think some of the points, like some of the key points to focus back in on, like really this idea, this mentality about getting traffic, this mentality about getting that traffic to your list, and then ultimately submitting offers to them, something of value for you. You found that a great way of creating crystallization point was with video, with talking to people on video and getting them to take action. You talked about one video that made you $16,000 when you were first just
crazy story.
Your house.
Crazy story. I started building my list in it was like September, October of 2007. And my list had only seen me on email or heard of me through email and pictures. That's it. They hadn't seen any videos of me. And I really was into Kern and Reese and Walker, and I was reading every email that they were putting out, and there was this common message at the time about transparency and video could bring transparency better, or could create transparency, convey transparency better than any other modality. And I knew I had to make a video, but I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to say in it. And you can go on YouTube. The video's still there. It's called Looking Like Hell. And it was July.
What's the video channel? YouTube.com/what?
YouTube.com/Anthony Aries. And just Google Looking Like Hell Anthony Aries. It'll come up. It was like July of 08. So my list, I started September of 07. So it was almost a year, right? I'd just been communicating through email. They knew of me, but they didn't really connect with me the same way, I guess. You know, and this is 4th of July weekend. That's why I remember it so well, because I was so afraid of doing the video, people seeing it, that I intentionally sent it out on 4th of July because I figured, you know, everyone's going to be away. Nobody's going to see this, right? So I was so scared. But I got so fed up with putting it off that I just said, screw this, man. I'm just going to do it. I looked like hell. My beard wasn't. My beard was a mess, and my house we just moved in was a disaster. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to bring people in and do a Frank Kern follow me style video into the house, and you know, and then tell them at the end that I'm going to give them a free report that I've been working on really hard all weekend, and I needed their feedback, and if they gave me good feedback, I'd give them credit in the report, and the report was going to get distributed throughout the community, and it was going to give them credit, and so I, you know, forced them to watch the end to see how they could get the report.
When you say credit, what does that mean? It was like kind of like an affiliate viral kind of thing.
Well, when I say credit, like I was going to notate them on the report because this report was getting distributed.
Oh, cool. So they would get just like recognized.
Yeah, recognized, right?
Nice.
So like in the industry, so like if a banker saw it, they would get recognition. And so it forced them to watch the video to the end and bond with me and then get the report and then give me feedback on the report. I ended up making $16,000 from that video. It was like...
And that was selling your course.
Yeah, well, the video, it was a free report, and it had a value in the report. Always
free report basically means PDF.
Yeah, always make sure that when you do give something away for free, it's got really good value in it. And I think also, Frank had said it's always important to ask people for feedback because it makes them feel like they're a part of it.
Sure.
And I did, and I got lots of feedback, and it was just like buzzing. And we sold $16,000. I made in my pocket 16 grand. And it was during 4th of July weekend when people are not supposed to be around.
Yeah,
there's like
cool.
no traffic. And I was so blown away that after that I was like, what do you think I should do? Make more videos.
Yeah.
So that's when I started making the videos in the back porch.
And nowadays, you can still do great with video. I believe that videos that are just slice of life is not as powerful anymore because now with Facebook, people see each other a lot. So nowadays, we try to make video a little bit more content driven. In this case, this is more biographical. I think the value is seeing that Anthony's not so different as you, not so different as me. We're all good guys and gals here. It's all good. But having things that are specific and topical. We recorded a video the other day, and we just jumped right into some heavy duty content. So I recommend with video nowadays, video is still very powerful, but really making sure that we're answering a question, that we're keeping the interest. One of the things I like to do is start what I call in medias res, which means kind of in the middle of things. So, for instance, in The Matrix, when you start watching that movie, you start with kind of a battle scene right away, and things are very, very interesting. So that's just a little bit of tip for video. Now, one of the things I want you to do, I'm such a believer in Anthony and the energy he brings to things. He's got a wonderful partner, working with Heather and working with his partner Derek. We've included a video a link down below. This is the video. We've included a link down below. I really just recommend that you take action, click on that link, and join up with Anthony and Derek, Heather, and get involved in what they're doing. I think it's extremely valuable. I really want to thank you for joining with me for this. This has been very, very enjoyable. We've gotten down and dirty.
It's an honor. It's an honor being here, sharing my story with you, and having Mike here. It's just like, wow, dude. I'm so grateful, bro. Seriously, you're an incredible dude.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. I think you're an incredible dude. I think we have incredible dudes and dudettes watching us right now, so thank you very much.
If you have stayed to the end of this video, you need to take your hand, put it over your shoulder, pat yourself on the back. 80% of success is showing up. That comes from Woody Allen.
All right, take care. See you next time.